Here's Gaither off the right side, has room. Gaither might go right up the gut at the 20. Gaither 15 inside the 10. He will score. Touchdown.
Smoky.com presents the Texas High School Football Show on 365 Sports. Brought to you by Peter Chevrolet.
Three receivers, Birch, Thomas, and Williams far side. Near side to Great. Fulbright to the right of Mordecai. Here comes the blitz. Mordecai throws a deep out. Pass. Caught. Kobe Birch. Touchdown.
Here's David Smoke.
Welcome to another week of Smoky.com presents the Texas High School Football Show. This is something we'll do every Thursday, launched at 12 o'clock on YouTube Premiere. I'd never heard of what that was, but Armstrong and Jack and everyone else has helped me understand that way you know it's coming. The chat room's going on, so I'll be chatting back and forth with a lot of you high school fans about the games you've seen this week or the games you're excited about this week, and, of course, interviews along the way. I'm going to, over the next few weeks, kind of look back at some games that I remember the most, state championship games, and maybe a memory or two. I'm not going to go over all of them because I've covered, I would say, 2 or 3 dozen of them in my lifetime. But here are a couple of games from early on in my career. We've talked about, in fact, Dennis Alexander, 83 Dangerfield, and how they had 16 wins, 631 points allowed, just 14 shutouts, the last 13 in a row. In 1983, I covered that Dangerfield loss to Medina Valley that Dennis Alexander was talking about, a shocking loss. In 1984, Groveton finally got one. Jim Wise was their head coach. They had a great running back named Michael Horace back in the day. And, of course, they eventually had the Rodney Thomas teams in 89 and 90 with Scott Phillips that dominated their classification. But I remember how happy I was in 84. I had covered Groveton and their great run. They lost to Boyd in the state championship game a year or two earlier, and they finally got one in 1984 after I left, and I wondered if I was maybe the problem as they beat Panhandle 38-7. Then I got to see Dangerfield cap off that amazing run in 1985 when they smoked Cuero 47-22 at what was then Floyd Casey Stadium. And then I saw a team knock Dangerfield out in 86, Jefferson Bulldogs. Jerry Bennett, his brother, is Phil Bennett. His other brother, Jerry, was involved in high school athletics forever, and they beat Cuero the next year down at Kyle Field at Texas A&M, 24-0, I think the final score was in that game. They had like 6 to 8 guys go on and play Division I football out of that Jefferson team. Alvin Wilson, his first of 2 state championships. He won it in 1988, but was Paris. And then, of course, 6 years later, that amazing run with the win against Plano East in winning 1994, beating Austin Westlake down at the Astrodome in Houston. I was proud enough to do that broadcast of that game on what was then KZEY radio. 1989, Chapel Hill. Dickie Meeks, the late Dickie Meeks, who later won a state championship as the head coach at Henderson. In 1989, they overcame so much and got hot at the end of the year. Kendrick Bell, among others, and they ended up winning the state championship against A&M Consolidated, and that was a team that kind of became Cinderella in 1989. 1990, I'll never forget Marshall and Dennis Parker, who had come in to take over Marshall to try to turn them around. They were always great speed and talent at Marshall. Dennis Parker came in. Remember the 88 teams that won the lost the semifinal game to Carter on a 1-yard pass to Jesse Armstead on the last play of the game. Jesse Armstead went to Miami, played in the NFL with the Giants. Dennis Parker and Marshall eventually got that state championship in 1990. So I wanted to go over some of the games early on in my career in the 80s through 1990. We'll come back, and I did mention John Tyler in 94. We'll come back next week with the 90s and then get to the 2000s. Just a couple of notes about some of the state championships that I remember in the career that started back in 1981. Later on in the show today, we're going to hear from Carthage head coach and 8-time state champion Scott Surratt. Legendary coach. He should be in the Hall of Fame. It's a sin that he's not in the Hall of Fame. Former Dangerfield coach Dennis Alexander. The games of the week and more still to come here on Smoky.com presents the Texas High School Football Show. Interesting note in high school football this past weekend, Lake Belton, first year of high school football at the varsity level with no seniors. Brian Cope, the head coach, won their first game And also, there's some time, you see teams break losing streaks. Quitman, their first win in over 3 years, so congratulations to them as well. And then you have teams that win and win and win, and sometimes it's taken for granted. Carthage has won 8 state championships under Scott Surratt, the head coach, who joins us on Smoky.com's Texas High School Football Show. You ever sometimes stop and wonder or think about what you've done?
We do an off season a little bit. I have, and we're very proud of what we've done around here. But we know that that run could end at any time, so we got to stay focused and hungry.
So I asked you this before, but when teams have logos, names, mystique, whatever, sometimes you can win a game before the game ever starts. Do you feel like that's the case now with you?
Well, I think we'll get everybody's best shot because of the C on the side of our helmet in our program, and and if we get them down, I think it does come in play. That here we go again. But at first we know we're going to get their best shot, and if we don't play well or they play well and playing with us, then here we go. It's going to be a war.
San Antonio Cornerstone this week. It looks like you're going to get healthy again, but you just played last week with all sorts of. Well, it was tough. A lot of turmoil, a lot of sadness. Shane Capps passed away, the funeral. You had COVID. You had other things that hit your team. What did you learn about your football team last week that they still somehow got down 17-0 and still beat a 5A Division II finalist from a year ago?
It's just our program. I mean, they're tough just like the rest of them, and every team's different. It's this senior group. And we found out what they were made of. There was no panic at halftime. And I kind of wanted to see the temperature of the halftime when I went in. So I waited a little bit. And we had a couple of leaders up said, there's no panic here. And said, just keep playing. Just keep playing. Let's get better and see what happens. And that's exactly what happened.
How much did the kick return affect that game?
Very much so. It won the game.
I know. I mean, but isn't that that's what teams like you do? Teams that are used to winning. Here we go, and all of a sudden he returns it for a touchdown and just found a way to get it done.
That's why we don't care how we win, whether it's a pretty win, ugly win, blowout, close game. Just get it done, and that's exactly what happened the other night. We just kept playing, and we talked about it at halftime. Just keep playing, and let the scoreboard take care of itself. And we did play very hard after viewing the film. We didn't play great. We didn't play perfect at any time, but we just kept playing hard, and that's what our program's all about.
So you open up with a 5A Division II finalist in Crosby. You have San Antonio Cornerstone, who last year was really, really good, beat Corpus Christi, Cal Allen, and others. Then down the road, you have Gilmer and Pleasant Grove. I know you're focused now on Cornerstone. The scheduling now in non-district for teams who are successful is becoming more and more difficult. Should it be that way?
It's just tough. We dropped down in division and got away in Kilgore, got away from Kilgore and Chapel Hill and Henderson, and all those guys we played every year in, year out, and then we're not playing those guys. So it's very tough in this area for sure. And I used to look forward to realignment, and now I do not. And but I'd rather it be that way than the other way, because I was talking to my high school head coach, Rodney Russell, and, doing a little gripe. And I said, man, we just can't find any games, and we hadn't been able to fill a full schedule the last couple of years. And he said, would you rather be the other way than everybody calling you? And I said, no, sir, I would not.
Yeah, you'd be everybody's homecoming game. Sometimes that's the case if that works out. But, okay, with those teams no longer in your district, you would think then that those could be non-district games. But are they just tired of playing you?
Well, I don't know what it is. They decided not to play us, and, it's big gates and fun games and things. But can't speak for those guys, but we would love to play.
You played and had 2 teams when you were a high school baseball player at Linden Kildare that were both really good, but you didn't get that ring. Then you win one as an offensive coordinator at Texas High. Did you go through that time when you were at LK until Texas High and until Carthage? Was that kind of like that carrot in the sky for you to get a state championship? Did you ever wonder if you'd get one?
Absolutely. It went so long. As a player, we no doubt we had the best team 2 years in a row, and some things happened. We had the best pitcher in the state. He got removed by a bad call in the first inning. We were up 4-0. And so, you just wondered if it was going to happen, but, you just kept working hard. And then at Texas High, we didn't know if we could win it under Barry. And we won one under Barry, and we didn't know. We just were working hard, and we won it and had very successful there. And that's how I got this job here. And then as a head coach, you don't know if you're ever going to win one. And I've got so many friends that are phenomenal coaches and they're just great coaches throughout the state, don't ever win one. And then we got lucky to win one the second year, and then won 3 in a row then. And then it's just been crazy ever since.
Scott, you guys, you have a staff that's amazing. You've kept a lot of them with you, and some of them have had opportunities to go elsewhere and try to have their own little limb that branches out. The commitment to athletics, and not just athletics, but the commitment from Carthage ISD and the city and the fan base. Can you try to explain that?
Oh, it's crazy. They were very committed, very hungry when they hired me, and I'm sure like they were when they hired everybody else. But I don't know. It was just a fit here, and then since we've been winning, everybody, it's grown bigger and bigger and bigger, and it should. But the community support and administrative team, our administrative is phenomenal, and that's how you get things done like we've done.
Carthage had won before, but they had not won like you've won, and not many programs have. What did you see when you played them, when you were at offensive coordinator at Texas High? You knew about their history because you're an East Texas guy. Was it, Sleepy Reynolds had a great run of success. What did you see that you thought that you could maybe go to a different level?
First of all, I saw them at LK scrimmage in Jefferson every year because we played Jefferson after them, and we saw them on that 16-millimeter tape, and they were just they were fast and big, and said, I thought Carthage was one of the best programs in the state at that point, or in East Texas, and then we played them in Texas High in 2000, 2001, and we saw a lot of great athletes then, and then I saw what they had coming back. After my last year at Texas High when the job came open. And so I really wanted the job and thought we could do something special. Doing this is just unbelievable. That wasn't what I was thinking, but I did think we could win some ball games, that's for sure.
How come? How come you're winning? What is it? The staff? Is it, obviously you have to have talent. I asked Todd Dodge that last week. Is it the coaching or is it the talent? And you could have a plan, but you still have to have those who can do it, or both. Why have you won as much as you have?
I think it's the consistency of the coaching staff. The players know day in and day out that we're going to be there for them, support them, but hold them accountable and discipline and things like that. But the main thing is how hard we play. And our goal is to, whether win or lose, is outplay or play harder and longer every game. And, most games that's the case. And if it's not, then they're getting an earful, because that is possible. You can play harder and longer every game.
Do you remember the championships or the near championships?
The near.
2015?
Yeah, I don't think we was real near there. We got smoked, but by Waco La Vega, and they had a great team, and our tailback the week before broke his ankle, and we had 9 players out, actually 9 starters out for that game that we started the season with. And not saying we could beat them because they had a great team, but I think we could have performed a little better. But in 2012, El Campo still there. We were quite a bit better and turned it over 4 times, and didn't get it done, but. Yeah, the near misses are always, those all stick with you. And I did say Mike Morgan came with me. His son started a couple of times, or 2 out of the first 3. He started all 3 state championships, but and then second and third at quarterback. But I said, "Can you believe this was after 6? Can you believe we have 6 championships?" And my response, I said, "I can't believe we don't have 10," because we'd had opportunity.
Did you see teams around the state that had dominated in the past, whether it's 50 years ago or even some that have had these great runs. Obviously, Lake Travis won 5 in a row, and Dangerfield, when you were growing up, you know how great they were in the 80s, and others. There's many that I'm leaving out, but did you always have like, my God, it's hard to win one, much less win a bunch of them?
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, growing up right beside Dangerfield, watching those guys win those 3, and I was in the district a couple of times, and know how good they were, maybe the best ever, and coached by one of the best coaches in history. This game in Texas is Dennis Alexander, and very special. And what Lake Travis did there was obviously special, and you just want to win one, honestly. And then, like I said, I've been very fortunate, kept going, and been very consistent. Been able to hire good coaches and keep some good coaches. Some of them went off on and become head coaches or coach in college or whatever. And but our program just attracts good coaches, and so we've just been very consistent.
You have a son that's, I think, in junior high, and I've always wanted to ask you this. I have people ask me this: how come Scott Surratt hasn't moved into the college ranks like some? But is that the reason, because you want to be there for his career?
Yeah, I want to be there for my daughter. She was a volleyball player, and they set a record her senior year, went 41-5 and played in the state tournament. And then I want to see my son through, and because I set my own times, and I'm going to get to coach him and things like that. In the college level, I wouldn't be able to do that. Wouldn't be able to see my wife near as much. And now I want to see Jet through. And then if somebody will hire a 58-year-old man, crazy man at that point, maybe I'll try it, but who knows? Who
is the bigger Switzer fan, Summer, your wife, or Barry?
That's a good question. That's close. Coach is a big fan, Coach Switzer, and but Summer's my rock. She's the biggest fan, and she's there for everything. But we love Coach Switzer. We've been able to stay at his house a few times and see him. And my daughter's down there now. He's taking care of her, and what a special man.
Scott, you've had to deal with life as well. Your father, Ray, passed away a little over a year ago. He was always in your ear about when you may have not had the best half of calls. You told me about the game. I guess it was against Heritage or somebody, or maybe Graham. And then obviously Shane Capps. We mentioned the funeral last week. Gunnar Capps' father passed away, a great friend of yours. What have you learned? How hard has that been the last year and a half? Not to mention just all the COVID as well.
It's been very hard. I mean, on everybody, but especially and my personal experience, and or my dad. He made me who I am as far as being so competitive, and my mom so competitive, and we call it perfectionist because like you remember the interceptions, you don't remember all the touchdowns, you remember the losses, you don't remember all the wins. I do remember one story that I was so fired up because I went 7 for 8 against a top 10 team in the country in baseball, and Louisiana Tech, when they were really, really good, and I hit 2 home runs, hit the game-winning home run, and I couldn't wait to call my dad because it was at Louisiana Tech, and I was actually 6 for 8. I'm sorry. And then he said, "What'd you do those other 2 times?" So that's kind of who I am. And then you go Shane Capps. You look at Carthage Bulldogs in dictionary, his name's going to be there. He was on our chain crew, he and his dad, ever since I've been here, and we were best as friends. And my wife and his wife Crystal are best friends, and so it's a big loss to the community, and but we're gonna get through it, and we're praying for the family and everything. But it's always tough to lose those old program people like Shane, and he was definitely a true Bulldog.
How intense are you during the game on the headsets?
I would I think I'm pretty intense. If you ask the staff, I think you would get a very intense. I'm pretty intense.
Yeah, I've seen you, and that's the reason why you're successful. So here you are, you're off to a 1-0 start at Cornerstone this week, and then I mentioned 2 teams you know real well, and they know you in Pleasant Grove and also in Gilmer. Does it make it even more special that you've dominated 4A, whatever level, in an area that is loaded with great 4A teams as well?
It does. I mean, East Texas is the mecca of, especially like you said, in 4A in football. it's come out of East Texas. But, it's the best of the best. And what's overlooked, I always say this, what's overlooked is the coaching in East Texas. And we got a lot of good players, but we got a lot of great coaches.
Hey, Scott, congratulations on what you've accomplished, what you do, and what you represent. Good luck this week and the rest of the year.
I appreciate it, Smokey. You're the best, man. Love you, man.
Scott Surratt, love you too, man. Head coach at Carthage. This is Smokey.com, the Texas High School Football Show.
All roads lead to your largest selection of pre-owned in East Texas. 3306 West Grande in Tyler. It's time for a car buying experience you will enjoy at Peters Auto Sports. Cars from ultimate luxury to affordable economy, trucks from work to play to all-out adventure. Come by 3306 West Grande in Tyler or visit us online at Peters Auto Sports and take advantage of our nationwide delivery. It's all here. Peters Auto Sports in Tyler.
For a limited time, refinance your vehicle and have 90 days with 0 payments. Only at Genco FCU. Refinancing lowers your rate and you pay less for your car. You can't pass on rates as low as 1.75% for 48 months. Apply online today.
Annual percentage rate subject to change without notice. Subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. Go to GencoFCU.org. NCUA Equal Housing Lender.
My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
He's one of my favorite people ever in the coaching business. Dennis Alexander, long time, 44 years, I believe it was, in coaching. Hughes Springs, Henderson, Harleton, Troop, but he really made a name for himself in what he did at Dangerfield High School, those teams in the 80s. Dennis Alexander joins us on the Smokey.com presents the Texas High School Football Show. How you been, Dennis?
Doing great. Thank you.
How was the painting you did today that I was told about?
Oh, always good.
It's one of those that allows you to kind of decompress a little bit and just think about stuff?
Well, if you're painting, it's, you decompress. But, no, I enjoyed it. I had sanded a door and had needed painting, so it went good.
Dennis Alexander, in his career, 340 wins, 149 losses, 11 ties, state championships, of course, at Dangerfield, had the incredible team, the run in the 80s. Do you remember the wins or do you remember those losses?
Oh, I think most people will tell you they remember the painful losses more than they do the wins. But, you do remember some wins, but you remember the gut-wrenching losses that could have been, that were either kept you from advancing for a chance to win state or to get into the playoffs. But so there's a lot of both.
Dennis Alexander has been at Troop. He's been at Harleton, Henderson. Of course, Hughes Springs, where it all started, then Dangerfield. You were a part of what I still think, and most people do, the greatest single-season football team of all time in 101 years of Texas high school football, 83 Dangerfield. How often is that brought up when people talk to you about high school football and your career? How often is that specific year brought up?
David, a lot. Back when that happened, that was the second year that two teams went into the playoffs. So nearly everybody you faced, especially after the first round, was a really good team. And, of course, the 83 team, with all the shutouts and the history of East Texas going on, because Pittsburgh had 12 or so back in 80 or 81. And, they were, 18 miles down the road from Dangerfield. So that stuff was going on. But I just, it doesn't matter from what part of East Texas people started following the Dangerfield team because of the recognition and the stats that were being put up. So we were, I pretty well think we were, Carthage, I believe they went to the semifinals. Don't know that they might have gone to the finals that year because we had played them, and beat them. And, but I think we were the only team left. And so that also, was year we played Gladewater at Longview and they were undefeated, and which we played them a number of times. And, as great a coach as Jack Murphy was, and as much as I loved him, they just had they couldn't beat us. And, we were very fortunate a few times, but, so it was huge following. There were packed stadiums everywhere, and people came out from all parts of the state. I've had people tell me from all areas they came to see it because of that, and most of them felt like it was the greatest team they had seen.
631 points. I think you gave up just the 8. We know the story about the 8. John Settle still has nightmares, right, about the 2, because he was the long snapper on the punter. And I've asked you this before. I've interviewed you dozens of times, but this is for a new show that we started, and I said, you know what, I gotta get Dennis on as soon as I possibly can. Did the shutout streak inspire your team, motivate your team, or did it at times become a burden?
Well, it motivated the team. I mean, immensely. Now, it was a burden for me. I mean, I felt the pressure because that was all over Dangerfield in the East Texas area. The fans at Dangerfield were very demanding, and so it was a burden, and that we wanted to continue. But I tell you, if we had given up points, I don't know if the kids would have responded. How much that would have deflated them, because they were motivated.
I've always asked you this question on occasion when I've seen you, and I haven't seen you in too long, but with what you did defensively, you guys destroyed people. You wrecked people. There were probably as many tackles for losses and sacks and turnovers and interceptions as it could humanly be possible. But in the day of football today, how would your defense line up against what is more now that wide open spread and RPOs and all of that?
Well, David, the reason I think that team would have been truly outstanding today, and obviously, you couldn't have as many shutouts. I mean, That's a given. Somebody's going to break down. But the thing was, we had a great front four. We had that could rush a passer. I mean, they could rush a passer. And they were all quick. And one defensive end was very long, as a term they use, and could rush. We had a defensive 2 technique over the guard that was an awesome football player that could shuck blockers. Linebackers could run and were smart. And the secondary were, state champion 400-meter relay and 1,600 relay. And so they could play some coverages that are required to man up when you needed to against some of this, so you can still stop the run. So that would be the biggest advantage, because if you can't run back there against what people are doing now in the passing game that's so skilled compared to what it was then, honestly, it would have held up. We would have won big. I think we would have won state. But to say, you're going to get 10 shutouts or something, whatever, that might be a stretch.
14 shutouts, 13 in a row to close out the year, and just obliterated everybody along the way, except those, again, the games, as you mentioned, Carthage was 4A and playing deep into the playoffs that year as well in your non-district schedule. How often do players from that time stay in touch with you? I know you at times it's been a while, and it's been a while since you were actually in coaching. How often do you get a chance to still stay in touch with them?
Well, I talk to some of them, and I run into kids all the time in Longview. Funny thing, I ran into a few different ones in Kilgore at Walmart the other day from Harleton that were really good kids. But the Dangerfield bunch, I'm in touch with Tony Evans quite a bit, and a number of them. They still gather at Dangerfield and cook barbecue and play dominoes and do things. And I went up there to a funeral about 2 weeks ago for one of my coaches that was an administrator there, Gerald Singleton, and got to see some kids from the first team I coached there in 1972. You weren't in East Texas at the time, but Gary Lewis, a great player, and played pro ball with Green Bay and so on. He was there, and I mean, they're old men. They're old men now. Yeah. And Tony and Willie and Eric Everett were there, and so it was enjoyable.
I remember when I first went to a practice, and it was, I guess it would have been 1984, and I went up to watch you practice, and I mean, you guys beat the hell out of each other. And now, they don't even do that, anymore, the different rules and all that. And, I mean, you guys beat the hell out of each other on that dusty old field right off the highway. Was that also just something that also made you guys who you were, just because of how you practiced against each other and demanded what you demanded?
Well, true. And I've tried telling other young coaches through the years as I've gone other places, they just, which I certainly mellowed in that regard, but God, they responded. We did things probably people would shudder at doing. I mean, in '83, we were doing full speed stuff on Wednesday, for the state championship game. Good on good.
Right.
And that's probably not wise to do, but that's the way they wanted to practice and to stay on edge. And it makes, well, I think it hurt us for the following year, and when we didn't win and should have in '84.
Yeah.
I would have paced things more, and I tried to do that the next year more, and we were fortunate to win it again, and we're not fortunate that the games, state wasn't close or anything, best I recall, but that's why I admire, Scott Surratt and their program consecutively doing things is really hard.
Yeah, 84, you had that team. You had really what was thought of as the state championship game in the quarterfinals against Gladewater. And Danny Mitchell blocked the extra point that kept you guys alive, and you won, I think, I don't know if it was on penetrations or whatever it was. That was at Rose Stadium, packed house, an unbelievable night. Do you feel like maybe, and then you won big in the semis, and then Medina Valley kind of snuck up on you, and all due respect to them, but do you feel like maybe your team felt like the quarterfinal game with Gladewater because it was so much buildup from the year before? You had that deal at Lobo Stadium, that maybe they just kind of lost their edge?
Well, I think what happened, David, I've thought about it a lot. When the Gladewater game took a lot out of us. Then we had to turn around and play a really, really good Vernon team.
Yep.
And that was a very tough game. That wasn't a blowout. That was tough at Texas Stadium. And then we just weren't as rested as I think, and the game, we let it get away. We had chances in the first quarter and didn't score down there, dominated. I think got down there twice maybe. We controlled the ball and, either go down, maybe have a turnover. We had 25 first downs to their 8. And the rushing and yardage was just as drastic. But they ran the opening kickoff of the second half back.
Yep.
And it seemed like after that we were just feeling pressure and couldn't get there, and things it just, I think, was scored 21-13 or something, or I mean, it was a one-score game, but I mean, and they certainly did a good job, but it was one of those, we were a better team, and just I wasn't able to get it done.
Well, and the next year you come back and you maul Cuero, Robert Strait and company. He was young running back at Cuero. You win that game big. I think that was like 47-22. You've been around a long time. Do you miss coaching? It's been a while since those last days at Troop. Do you miss it?
Yeah. I never did envision getting out or retiring. If things had gone good, and I would still be going like Randy Allen or down at Cal Allen. So I loved it. That's what I wanted to do and did, and was fortunate enough to be in some good places, but it didn't work out.
Yeah, and it ended in Troop, and we don't have to get into details, but there was controversy there. I remember talking to you quite a bit during that time. That's not the way it's supposed to end, is it, Dennis?
No, you don't want it to, and that's there's two sides to everything. Troop was a good I say good experience. I made a lot of friends there that are very dear to me to this day, and one of them I do a lot of things with still. But Troop was a unique place, and that was about all I want to say about it.
Yeah, but you're 7th all time in number of wins in high school football history. Why in the hell aren't you in the Texas High School Football Hall of Fame?
Well, I can't answer. I don't know. The Texas High School Coach Association, their committees and so on that's involved each year and whatnot. It's better off I not get him say anything.
I'll say it for you. I'm on the Texas High School football ballot. I'm the one that helped set the ballot for coaches, and they're trying to get more coaches in because there's such a backlog. You should be in. One of the text messages I sent to Mike Anderson, who does an incredible job with the Hall of Fame, said it's a travesty. But the Texas High School Coaches Association Hall of Honor, with all due respect to a lot of great men that have been honored, inductees or whatever, it seems like that can be a little bit more popularity or handshakes and that kind of thing. Would you agree?
Yes, I do. I think a large number, I'd say 80% of the coaches in there are very deserving and did it with their careers and on the field. And some kind of came in the back door.
I have a former coach, and he's Robert Mickler, Bob Mickler at Universal City Randolph. It's one of the highest winning percentages, has over 220 wins. He's been gone for a long time. It makes no sense. He's not in either one of them either. And it makes me wonder, if you guys can't get in, then who the hell else can get in? And I know that there's others that have more wins or better records or more championships or whatever else. It's interesting. You watch the way the game of football is played today. Would you have changed what you did offensively along with the new wave of what they do offensively in football now?
Well, when they started, I think it really grew when they started 7-on-7.
Yep.
And and there were a lot of things going on to allow football to be able to compete year round. You know, things the UIL used to, UIL year round, transfers can't do this or that, and now it's lame duck. You know, it's year round, period. And that was allowed, and then the colleges, their success with it, Art Briles and many others in the passing game and all that, it made it where, you know, that's the style and that's what the kids want to do. And they also did some of it to, it enticed basketball players to be receivers. Mm-hmm. That was quite understood. And so, and I've had some of the really successful coaches, they kind of hate that it's become 12 months a year now. You know, they don't get a break, but that's what's made this game grow so much. But, you know, you sit there with Pleasant Grove and a number of schools around the state that win big, Wascom themselves, you know, with the slot T and different things. That's great offenses that's not seen every week. But everybody, let's say 90% of them want to try to mimic what they see going on Saturday. And that's understandable. You put a great athlete at quarterback, whether he's a great passer or not. If he's a great runner, you still got the same threat, you know. And so it's gone that direction, obviously. And of course, if you don't have the personnel for it, it turns out pretty ugly at times. And I've seen a lot of that.
Yeah, you can get on the wrong side of that. It's like a landslide. Dennis, a couple of more questions. I know Brandon Sanders has done a great job trying to document the 1983 team, and he's doing what he's doing, and I talked to him even earlier today. Do you sometimes realize what that Dangerfield football team meant to that town, the city of the town of Lone Star as well, with what was going on with the economy and the steel mill, and the economy was falling apart and people losing jobs? What did it mean to you that team, and specifically that team, was able to keep people happy through maybe the holidays that otherwise was a tough time?
Well, you know, it was obvious. I didn't think a whole lot about it at the time, but, you know, it's been documented so much, and you can go back and find all kinds of things on YouTube or somewhere. But, yeah, it was. But that happens everywhere. So the biggest thing was, you know, winning big, yes. And that culture of Lone Star Steel, even though, you know, at one time they employed over 6,000 from all over East Texas, still the majority of it was considered that area up there. So it was really important. And God, people made sacrifices, you know.
Yeah.
They didn't make sacrifices. That's what they wanted to do.
Yeah. Dennis, the career that you had, with all the things that you did, do you have any regrets?
Oh, yeah. Some in coaching, in that, you know, you always make some mistakes along the way. That when it goes back to winning and losing, you know, sometimes you do what percentage is best with your personnel to do. But most of the time, how I handled the kids, but, you know, times changed, and I realize that a lot. But, yeah, you have regrets. I probably stayed with a place or two that the talent had gotten low, and I thought, well, you know, David, I've never been one to move, okay?
Yeah.
I stayed with Dangerfield, and then I thought it was finally time and went to Henderson, had 13 years, and we had some good teams there. Then we got down a little bit, and then enjoyed a great little run up at Harleton and then Troop. But and we had two good teams at Troop, and then we were fixing to go through two classes that never won a game in junior high. And so compounding that with other things going on, we weren't a very good team. And so, things didn't work out. But I have found this, by moving, I've made so many contacts and good friends, from Dangerfield, Henderson, Harleton, way back at Hugh Springs on my first job, and then at Troop. So all that was great and rewarding. So, but the game, the name of the game is you win, or there's going to be things come about. Mm-hmm. And so that was kind of at Troop, we just kind of got into a difficult competitive situation the last couple of years.
Final thing, if you got a call from one of those places I mentioned, one of those organizations, if one of them call you and say, hey, you are now a part of the Hall of Honor or the Hall of Fame, I know how you kind of feel about that, but what would that mean to you if you did get that call?
Well, David, I'm going to be the same person, so whether they call or not, but it's an honor to be in there. Okay? And so that's the simplest way of putting it. It is an honor, and there's really good ones not ever going to make it because they didn't get an opportunity to coach, enough really good teams. And so we'll, whatever happens, that's the way it's going to be. I just have to see whatever goes down.
Dennis, you're always a friend. Love you, man. Appreciate everything.
Hey, thank you, and it's great to hear from you.
So many great memories. First time I met you in '84, that team in '83, the state championship over Cuero in '85 as well. 340 wins, 149 losses, 11 ties, and one of those ties, one of the most dramatic games you'll ever see ever. You don't have them anymore because there's overtime. The 1984 game between Dangerfield and Gladewater at a packed house in Tyler in the quarterfinals. Dennis Alexander should be, and hopefully one day, will be a part of every Texas High School Football Hall of Fame, and this is 365 Sports.
All roads lead to your largest selection of pre-owned in East Texas. 3306 West Grande in Tyler. It's time for a car buying experience you will enjoy at Peters Auto Sports. Cars from ultimate luxury to affordable economy, trucks from work to play to all-out adventure. Come by 3306 West Grande in Tyler or visit us online at Peters Auto Sports and take advantage of our nationwide delivery. It's all here. Peters Auto Sports in Tyler.
For a limited time, refinance your vehicle and have 90 days with zero payments. Only at Genco FCU. Refinancing lowers your rate and you pay less for your car. You can't pass on rates as low as 1.75% for 48 months. Apply online today.
Annual percentage rate subject to change without notice. Subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. Go to GencoFCU.org. NCUA Equal Housing Lender.
My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Welcome back to Smoky.com's The Texas High School Football Show. I'm going to give you here in a minute, not yet, but a graphic of the games this week thanks to Jerry Forrest and Pigskin Prep. Go to pigskinprep.com. The guy does an amazing job. Ratings on every high school football team in Texas, where they rank in their classification, how he predicts games coming up this week. There's a handful of games from last week, and there's a bunch of them, but some of the games, like how about South Lake Carroll hammering Highland Park? Not a surprise. South Lake Carroll's loaded, even with Quinn Ewers not back or leaving early. A couple of games that came to mind. Judson with a really nice win at home against DeSoto. Duncanville took on, and they'll take on anybody, but lost to Mater Dei out of California in that game. Cedar Hill Rockwall, great win for the Yellow Jackets at Rockwall, 42. I think it was, 42-29, I believe, in that one as well. And there was one other game, another game or two that I noticed that I wanted to bring up in the Westlake and Temple. We had Todd Dodge on last week. They beat Temple up pretty good, but I love the fact Scott Stewart and Temple have played them before and played them again. So those are some of the highlighted games of the bigger schools from last week, and I'll do that each week and go down to classifications and kind of look at what we see. We, of course, have already heard from Scott Surratt, head coach at Carthage, and they beat 5A Division II finalist Crosby to continue their winning streak the way it is as well. So here are the games according to Jerry Forrest and pigskinprep.com. These are the elite games, and I'm going to go over this again with you, that the number that counts in this particular graphic is the far right. It's the one that says ranked totals. For example, 3 is the combination of May, this is 6-man, Class 1A, and Sterling City are ranked 1 and 2 in the state. The combined rankings or ratings is 3. So that's the highest rated game based on the combination of the ratings of the two teams. There's Lone Star in Aledo, Argyle in Pleasant Grove, New Deal in Wellington in a 2A game. And I'll go down the list of more. Paris had an impressive win to start the year. They'll play Salina. You got Westlake. They played Temple. Now they're going to play Trinity, Wimberley, and Cuero. You keep going down the list. Go down to the 10th game listed. Denton, Guyer, and Ryan. Of course, a couple of schools out of Denton, Ryan, I didn't even bring that game up. They absolutely annihilated Longview. The Lobos just really struggled in that game. John King and the Lobos will bounce back. Tatum, in the 12th game listed, they had a very impressive win to start the year. They'll play on Dangerfield. Dangerfield beat Atlanta 48-7. That's an old slobber knocker in East Texas. Salado, they run that wing tee against Grandview. Grandview had a dramatic win against Malakoff. Those games between Grandview and Malakoff, I saw last year a playoff game in Waco. Malakoff finally got Grandview. Grandview blocked a field goal at the end of the game on the last play of the game that would have sent the game into overtime to beat long time, or really it's a short series, but rival with Malakoff. A couple other games. China Spring, the 16th game, will play Lorena. They met last year. China Spring won big. Their quarterback in Major Bowden is so explosive. South Lake Carroll and Rockwall Heath, that'll be a great game. South Lake Carroll, of course, has proven they're loaded, but Heath can put up some points under Mike Spradlin, the former coach under Art Browse at Houston and also Temple head coach. And then all the way down, Springtown and Graham was interesting. I saw Springtown last year. They're really well coached, fantastic coach team. They'll take on Graham. Both teams won their opener. And then Cisco and Wall, they play each other quite a bit. And then Amarillo, Tascosa, and Midland Legacy. Those are the top games based on ratings from pigskinprep.com and Jerry Forrest. So the lower the number to the right-hand side, the lower the number, the more elite the game is for this week, and we'll do that every week. Jerry sends that to me on Sunday, and we'll pass it along to you as well. I want to thank Randy Peters and Peters Chevrolet. Man, they've been fantastic. Randy is a huge high school football fan. Peters Chevrolet in Longview, been a friend of mine and also a sponsor of a lot of what I've done with my website and Smoky.com for many, many years. Armstrong Sims as well, again today, helping us out with Smoky.com presents the Texas High School Football Show. The guys wanted me to do this, and I've been covering Texas football now, high school football, since 1981, so going into my 40th year. And I enjoy trying to bring Dennis Alexander from back in his run, Dangerfield, Henderson, and others, Todd Dodge last year. Also, of course, this week, 8-time state championship head coach Scott Surratt. We appreciate his time as well. So thanks to everybody that was involved. Thanks to you. We'll be back every Thursday at 12 o'clock on YouTube Premiere. And I'm David Smoke. Have a great weekend of Texas high school football.